12 bands, 12 songs. And in every single case, the moment that song hit airwaves, something inside the machine broke. You've heard most of these. Some of them you might love. A few of them actually charted, and one of them reached the top 3 in the United States, and it still managed to take everything down with it. Because here's what nobody tells you about how careers die. It's rarely the songs that bomb in silence. It's the ones that create a moment, a direction that alienates half the fan base, a creative call that exposes a fracture the band was already hiding, a song that signals to the label, to the press, to the listeners that this band no longer knows who they are. And once that door opens, it doesn't close easy. These aren't bands that stumbled in obscurity. At various points before this moment, every single band on this list was filling arenas, going platinum, setting the agenda for their era, and then one session, one single decision, and the whole structure started shifting. 12 stories, all of them happening to bands who had no idea what was about to hit them. Starting at number 12. Number 12, Warrant, Machine Gun, 1992. The year is 1992. Warrant just made the best album of their career, and the timing couldn't have been worse. You know Warrant from Cherry Pie. You know the image, the big riff, the bigger hair, the MTV ready grin. What you might not know is that Johnny Lane privately hated where that song had taken his band. So when they went into the studio in early 1992, they went in determined to prove who they actually were. They called the album Dog Eat Dog, lead single Machine Gun, driving dark, stripped back, no wink, no hairspray, just a grinding riff and a songwriter who'd been waiting 3 years for someone to hear the real version of this band. Here's where it gets painful. While Warrant was in the studio reinventing themselves, Nirvana dropped Nevermind. By August 1992, when Machine Gun hit, radio had already picked its side. Dog Eat Dog peaked at number 25 on the Billboard 200. Their debut had gone platinum. Columbia dropped them. The original lineup fractured within 2 years. And here's what gets me every time I think about this one. The critics who reviewed Dog Eat Dog in real time loved it. Fans who found it years later call it the best thing Warrant ever recorded. The one album Johnny Lane poured himself into, the one that showed what he was actually capable of, arrived 3 months after the world stopped listening to that kind of rock. If you've ever done your best work at exactly the wrong moment, you understand this one completely. Lane died in 2011. He was 47. And Dog Eat Dog still doesn't get the credit it deserves. Number 11, the Knack, Baby Talks Dirty, 1980. Let me tell you about the fastest rise and fall in new wave history. If you were paying attention in the summer of 1979, you know what my Sharona meant. 6 weeks at number 1. Capitol Records' fastest selling single since the Beatles. The entire music industry was pointing at the Knack as the next thing, and naturally, when the time came to follow up, the pressure was enormous. 8 months later, they released Baby Talks Dirty, and the critics sharpened their knives. Here's the thing about Baby Talks Dirty. It wasn't just a flop. It was accused of being a deliberate copy of My Sharona. Same key, same rhythmic structure, same DNA. Here's Rolling Stone called it a Sharona carbon copy. A backlash movement had already been building. They literally called it Nuke the Knack. And Baby Talks Dirty gave that movement everything it needed to go mainstream. The single peaked at number 38. Their second album stalled at number 15. A third album, Round Trip, barely cracked the top 100. By the end of 1981, the band had broken apart. Doug Fieger later said, "Had that song come out on our fifth album, I think people would have said, oh, they've gone back to their roots. But as it was, people were gunning for us." He wasn't wrong, but the song loaded the gun. There's something instructive here beyond just the knack about what happens when the industry gives you 1 year to prove you're not a one-hit wonder, and you hand them a song that sounds like the same year all over again.
Let's look at the numbers. Only 9% of you are actually subscribed. Honestly, that's tough to see. Our team spends days hunting down archives and verifying every single fact just to tell these stories right. If you've made it this far into the video, you're clearly part of the community, so please hit subscribe. It costs nothing and helps us immensely. Now, for those already subscribed, very few of you have made the jump to our membership, and that's a hard pill to swallow because you're the ones who know our value best. If this channel has moved you or inspired you, consider joining. It's the price of one coffee, but it's the literal fuel for this channel. Let's keep this alive together. Back to the story.
Number 10, Extreme, Rest in Peace, 1992. This one has a specific kind of irony to it, because Rest in Peace actually worked on rock radio. Hit number 1 on the mainstream rock chart. Nuno Betancourt was playing at a level that most guitarists spend careers chasing. The band had just come off More Than Words, reaching number 1 in 1991. They were building something real. What they built was 3 sides to every story. A 3-part, 75-minute concept album, political, orchestral, parts of it recorded at Abbey Road Studios. A band that had been known for funk metal muscle suddenly delivering something that reached toward the sky. And the audience that had followed them stayed home. The album sold about 700,000 copies. Pornography, their previous record, had moved more than double that. Rest in Peace hit only number 96 on the Hot 100, despite its rock chart dominance. Without another More Than Words to pull casual listeners in, the concept album format couldn't sustain them in the middle of grunge's takeover. Here's what makes it sting. The band considers 3 sides their finest work. A lot of serious Extreme fans agree. It's one of those records you keep finding layers in years after the fact. But in the fall of 1992, there was no room for a thoughtful rock opera when Seattle was rewriting the rules. Gary Cherone eventually joined Van Halen. Nuno disappeared into production work and solo projects. A genuinely great band, one real swing at something bigger than themselves, and the market just wasn't ready for it. Some of y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. The best thing you ever made, you released at exactly the wrong time. Number 9, Winger, Spell I'm Under, 1993. The Winger story might be the most specific career demolition on this entire list because it didn't require a bad song. It didn't require a bad album. The damage was done by an animated teenager's wardrobe choice. By 1992, Winger had 2 platinum albums. 17, Headed for a Heartbreak, Miles Away, MTV staples. They were headlining tours. And then Beavis and Butthead premiered on MTV. One of the show's recurring characters was a chubby, awkward kid named Stuart. Stuart wore a Winger t-shirt every episode. Guitarist Reb Beach described watching it on the tour bus with the rest of the band. The laughing stopped pretty fast, and then the tickets stopped selling. Beach later put it plainly. In the weeks that followed, we had to cancel the tour because people wouldn't be caught dead buying a ticket to a Winger show. And then Metallica, during live shows on their massive 1992 tour, showed footage of Lars Ulrich throwing darts at a photograph of Kip Winger. Entire arenas laughed. This is a real thing that happened. Winger pressed on, released Pull in 1993, a harder, more serious record than anything they'd done before, including the single Spell I'm Under. Quality work. Nobody came. The band dissolved in 1994. And here's what stays with me. Kip Winger was a classically trained musician who'd studied composition and worked with Alice Cooper and Bob Dylan. Reb Beach was a Berkeley-trained guitarist. Real musicians. Serious careers ended not by a bad song, but by a cartoon. Number 8, Twisted Sister, Leader of the Pack, 1985. That's what you fell for. By late 1984, Twisted Sister owned the moment. We're Not Gonna Take It and I Wanna Rock were everywhere. Stay Hungry had gone platinum. Dee Snider was testifying in front of the United States Senate, defending rock music from a government hearing and making that committee look ridiculous in the process. These were the most visible hard rock band on the planet. Everything was pointing forward. And then they made a covers album. Come Out and Play arrived in October 1985. The lead single was a cover of the Shangri-La's 1964 girl group classic, Leader of the Pack. Now cranked through Twisted Sister's machine, it was meant as a statement of range. Instead, it felt like a band who'd run out of gas precisely when they couldn't afford to. Come Out and Play peaked at number 73 on the Billboard 200. Stay Hungry had reached number 11. The gap between those two numbers is where the career started going quiet. The deeper problem was creative fracture. Dee Snider's relationship with the rest of the band was already straining. The label was applying pressure. The specific combination that had made Stay Hungry work, the humor, the aggression, the anthemic hook, the U.S. versus the energy, couldn't survive a pivot to covers when the audience just wanted another round of the same. They released one more original album, Love Is for Suckers, in 1987. It barely registered. The original Twisted Sister lineup called it quits in 1988. A band that should have had 5 more years at that level. One wrong turn, one wrong single, and the window closed. Number 7, Poison, Stan, 1993. Poison came into 1993 as a band in genuine transition. C.C. DeVille, founding guitarist, the unpredictable one, the guy whose playing sounded like the soundtrack to every perfectly bad decision you made at 19, had been let go. Too unreliable. Brought in to replace him was Richie Kotzen, a 23-year-old Berkeley-trained virtuoso with jazz chops and a serious work ethic. And the song they chose as the lead single for this new era, the track meant to announce this more mature, credible version of Poison, was Stan, slow, bluesy, gospel-influenced. They brought in the LA First AME Church Choir for backing vocals. Here's the thing, Stand is actually a good song, but it is not a Poison song, not the Poison that their fan base had built its relationship around. The album Native Tongue went gold, but their previous record, Flesh and Blood had gone triple platinum, then the other shoe dropped. Kotzen had become romantically involved with drummer Ricky Rockett's then fiancé. He was fired in November 1993. A replacement guitarist finished the tour. The new era, the one meant to represent growth, lasted less than a year. By 1994, Bret Michaels was in a car accident. The follow-up album sat on a shelf for years. Poison, as a functioning creative entity, effectively stopped. One direction change, one scandal, one era ended before it ever had a real chance to breathe. Whether you think Stan was brave or a misstep, I'll let you decide. But I know which side the sales figures came down on. Number 6, Mötley Crüe, Hooligan's Holiday, 1994. In 1992, Mötley Crüe fired Vince Neil, the most recognizable voice in glam metal, gone. What came in was John Corabi, a raw, powerful vocalist who could do things Neil never could. Genuinely talented, genuinely committed. The label, Elektra Records, had just signed the band to a $25 million deal, the biggest contract of their careers, and the label hadn't been told Neil was gone until after the ink dried. Hooligan's Holiday was the first single from the 1994 self-titled album, a grunge-inflected, heavy hard rock track. Musically, it worked. Nikki Sixx, Tommy Lee, Mick Mars, and John Corabi were making the boldest music of the band's career. But Elektra didn't want bold. They wanted Vince Neil. When the album underperformed, it's the manager delivered the line that rock history keeps returning to. I don't care if Paul McCartney was fronting this band, that's not what we paid for. Corabi was fired, and then something surreal happened. In the decades since, Mötley Crüe has acted like those recordings barely exist. No live performances of that material, no greatest hits inclusions. Corabi has described his own vinyl copies as rare collector's finds. He told an interviewer once that his ex-wife returned his in a box of items after a divorce. And that's the only copy he had. One album, gone from the official narrative, because the label wanted the old logo, not the new sound. And the band eventually gave them what they paid for. Number 5, Queensrÿche, Sign of the Times, 1997. By 1992, Queensrÿche had pulled off something genuinely improbable. Empire went double platinum. Silent Lucidity became an unexpected crossover hit. Progressive metal architects, not radio acts. And somehow both worlds showed up at the same time. They'd earned that legitimacy the slow way, album by album, since the early 80s. And then they chased 1997. Here in the Now Frontier came out that year, recorded partly at Pearl Jam guitarist Stone Gossard's home studio, engineered by the same engineer who'd worked on Alice in Chains records. The pivot toward a grunge-adjacent, stripped-down sound was deliberate. Lead single, Sign of the Times. You can feel the calculation in it, the attempt to sound current rather than classic. The album debuted at number 19, and then it vanished from the charts almost immediately. It received no RIAA certification. For context, Promised Land, their previous record, had gone platinum. Here's where it compounds. During the tour, EMI Records, their longtime label, went bankrupt and was absorbed. Queensrÿche had to fund the remainder of the tour themselves. And then founding guitarist Chris DeGarmo, primary creative force behind some of their most essential writing, announced he was leaving, all from one album cycle. Label gone, DeGarmo gone, fan base fractured. A band that had been one of the most creatively consistent acts in hard rock suddenly had no anchor on any side. They never fully recovered the status they'd built through Empire. Stay with me on this one, because the next four are where it gets heavier. Number 4, The Cars, You're the Girl, 1987.
Why don't you dream anymore?
Here's the thing about The Cars. They made everything look effortless. From Just What I Needed in 1978 straight through to Drive and Magic in 1984. Heartbeat City was a top 5 album. Rick Ocasek seemed to understand pop music at a molecular level. Elliot Easton's guitar work was the kind of understated brilliance that musicians appreciate more than casual listeners ever get credit for. And then came Door to Door in 1987. You Are the Girl was the lead single, and technically it's a Cars song. The production values, the tone, the structure, all there. But something about it felt like a band going through motions that used to feel natural. The specific chemistry that had made Heartbeat City work, that combination of cool detachment and genuine pop immediacy, felt like it was running out of voltage. The album significantly underperformed compared to where they'd been, and the band read the room. No ugly fight, no public implosion, no dramatic interview, just a quiet dissolution in 1988. Here's the part that deserves more attention. This was a band with an impeccable hit rate, 6 studio albums deep, with a touring machine that still worked. The commercial failure of Door to Door didn't have to mean the end, except it revealed something they already knew: they'd run out of things to say together. Ocasek went solo. The band scattered. And if you've ever been in a room with people you've built something with and felt that particular silence when everyone knows it's done, but nobody's saying it, you know exactly what that last Cars album sounds like. Number 3, Skid Row, Breaking Down, 1995. Skid Row's Slave to the Grind debuted at number 1 in June 1991. Number 1. For a hard rock band in the middle of grunge's rise, that's not supposed to happen. Sebastian Bach's voice, the range, the power, the barely contained danger in it had elevated them beyond their peers. They were the band that shouldn't have been working and were absolutely working. And then the relationship started coming apart. Bassist Rachel Bolan has said it plainly. By the time they were recording Subhuman Race in 1994, nobody really wanted to be there. They hired Bob Rock to produce, the same man behind Mötley Crüe's Dr. Feelgood and Metallica's Black Album. They were reaching for something new, or at least something that wouldn't get buried by the new. Breaking Down was among the singles, so the album peaked at number 35. The band that had debuted at number 1 was now barely in the top 40. But the commercial failure wasn't the most expensive thing. The most expensive thing was what it exposed internally: demands over songwriting credit, directions being pulled in 4 different ways, tensions that had been manageable during success became impossible during decline. In 1996, Sebastian Bach was fired. The specific incident involved a disagreement over an opening slot on the Kiss reunion tour. But the relationship had been deteriorating since before Subhuman Race was even finished. Bach once called the album Our Saint Anger. He wasn't wrong about the damage it did. A band that peaked at number 1, broken apart by the album that was supposed to prove they could survive the 90s. Number 2, Kiss, A World Without Heroes, 1981. Gene Simmons said it himself. Looking back, we were convinced we were making our Sgt. Pepper. By 1981, Kiss was in chaos. Drummer Peter Criss was gone, replaced by Eric Carr. Ace Frehley, founding guitarist The Space Ace, was so disengaged during recording that he essentially mailed in his guitar parts from his home studio in Connecticut. The band brought in producer Bob Ezrin, fresh off the enormous success of Pink Floyd's The Wall, and handed him a concept album built around a fantasy story Simmons had written. The lead single from Music from the Elder was A World Without Heroes. Lou Reed co-wrote the lyrics. Bob Ezrin brought the orchestral vision. It was genuinely ambitious. The album debuted at number 75 on the Billboard 200. By February 1982, 3 months after release, Dear, it was off the charts. It was the first Kiss album to fail to go gold in the United States. The band didn't tour behind it, barely played it live. We're openly embarrassed by it. Paul Stanley called it the biggest misstep of our careers. Ace Frehley, who considered the whole thing offensive, reportedly threw a tape of the album out the window of his car at speed on the highway. Simmons later said simply, "It bombed. There's no other way to look at it. Here's what you need to sit with. This was Kiss, 6 years removed from Destroyer."
Without heroes.
And one album aimed at critical respectability, beating one album that tried to reach beyond the fire, the blood, and the painted faces, nearly took everything with it. They recovered. But Ace Frehley never truly came back. And the era the Elder represented, whatever it was going to be, ended before it had a name. Some mistakes teach you exactly who you are and who you're not. Number 1, Styx, Mr. Roboto, 1983. Here's the most ironic entry on this entire list, a song that actually charted, a song that reached number 3 in the United States, a song that is, to this day, one of the most recognized Styx recordings ever made, and it still destroyed everything. Mr. Roboto was the lead single from Kilroy Was Here in 1983, a concept album Dennis DeYoung had been building in his head for years, a rock opera set in a dystopian future where music has been banned. The band spent $1 million on a 10-minute theatrical film to accompany the live show. They booked theaters instead of arenas. DeYoung designed costumes, scripted scenes, insisted every performance follow the narrative arc he'd written. Guitarist Tommy Shaw hated all of it. James Young did too, but the record company ran some test marketing. Then audiences chose Mr. Roboto as the single. So it went out. Synth-heavy techno pop, a far cry from Come Sail Away, as the flagship of a band whose core audience wanted to hear the sound they'd already loved. The song hit number 3, and at the end of the tour, Tommy Shaw quit, just walked out. The band that had put together 4 consecutive triple platinum albums fell silent. They went dormant for 7 years. J.A. Young later said it plainly. "We killed the golden goose, at least for the time being." DeYoung went on to call it a period of sheer will, dragging the group into something they didn't believe in. Shaw called it an ugly battle after ugly battle. Both of them were right. And here's what this one proves that the other 11 don't, because every other song on this list was at least partially a commercial failure. This one charted, this one made money, this one got radio play, and it still fractured the band beyond repair, alienated half the audience, drained the touring finances. and sent one of the best rock guitarists of the era into a solo career that, as good as it was never quite the same as being in Styx.
Keep me alive. Just keep me alive.
You know how rare it is for a song to reach the top 5 and still take everything down with it? That's how powerful the wrong creative direction can be. It doesn't need to fail, it just needs to be wrong for the people in the room making it. And once that wrongness takes hold, once somebody in the band stops believing in what they're doing, no chart position saves you. Which one on this list hit you the hardest? I already know the comments on this one are going to be split. Drop your number 1 in the comments. I want to know if we agree.